Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Niger once again, and this is going to be another discussion video. So, before I begin, I just want to say Happy 4th of July to all who celebrate. Hey, to those of you who have plans today, whether it's grilling, barbecuing, hanging out, going to watch the fireworks, or what have you. If you celebrate, if you don't, that's cool, but if you do, Happy 4th to you all. Oh, but also, today, hey, we're going to try to do another I guess kind of debate. It's been a little bit since I've done like a debate discussion video. Oh, but today we're gonna be talking about annual games versus non-annual games. A discussion as old as time and space itself. Of a debate as old as time and space itself. Of course, annual games like Call of Duty, which come out every year, or like the 2K games, like the NBA, NFL's EA, but nevertheless, NBA, NFL, WWE, he games that come out each and every year, versus non-annual games that have a lot of games of the franchise but don't come out every year. They may come out every 2 or 3 years, or every 4 or 5 years, or even more so sometimes. And so we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of each. I came up with five pros and cons of each. I'm going to be explaining them, and then it'll be up to you to decide which you guys prefer. For me, I feel like annual games versus non-annual games. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle. Well, annual games are fun. Non-annual games are fun as well. As long as I'm having fun, that's all that really matters. But without further ado, we're gonna start with the annual games. So, like I said, I came up with 5 pros and 5 cons for both sides. So we're gonna discuss them. So the first pro, number one for annual games, is that people know what to expect. Something like Call of Duty, people already know what they're going to expect, and that's Call of Duty having a relatively pick up and play nature to it, to where there's not a whole lot of mysteries, there's not a whole lot of guesswork, or you pick it up pretty easy to figure out. A lot of it boiling down to point and shoot, and then you go into the multiplayer lobbies, or you play the story mode, or what have you, and you pretty much go from there. A lot of people are kind of used to that, they know exactly what to do for the most part when it comes to the annual games, and then which ties into the next reason, the next pro number two is that game mechanics can be reused, and this is more on the company side, not really on like the fan base, the player base side, but the game mechanics being reused. Who's going back to games like Call of Duty and stuff like that. The mechanics can be used over and over again, and pretty much copied and pasted it from another game. And as long as the mechanics work, they're normally able to get away with it, and normally able to pull it off and stuff. But yeah, so a lot of the mechanics and stuff can be used. There's even some of the assets. Now usually the assets will have to be flipped based on the game, but yeah, so. A lot of stuff can end up being reused, reused, and recycle. Then the next pro, number three, is that a game comes out every year, so people know. And normally, like annual games have even a specific time frame as to when they're going to come out. With like the WWE games, they normally come out around, well, they used to come out around like October and November, but now they're coming out around March or April, around like WrestleMania season. The Call of Duty games usually come out around October and November, or stuff like that. So there's a certain time frame, and the game comes out every year. That's why it's annual. It comes out every year, so people look forward to a new game from that company every single year. Then number four is that it's not a long wait between games. Like I said, it comes out every year. So by the time a game comes out, you only have to wait about a year or so before you get a new one. The only exception I could think of was when WWE took a little bit longer on 2K22, and that paid out for them in the long run, because 2K22 ended up being a lot better than a lot of the other WWE games, more notably 2K20, but yeah, not a long wait. You only gotta wait a year, and then how long you're waiting, and you only gotta hold out for about 12 months after release, give or take, of course. And then finally, it allows for Reason number 5 is allow for a large game catalog. So a lot of games in the franchise can be made. The Call of Duty games have a lot of games in the franchise. It's got the Modern Warfare games. It's got Black Ops. It's got stuff like the World War II games. It's got Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, Ghosts, stuff like that. There's a lot of games to choose from. You can play that game, that year's game, while you're waiting for the next one, or you can even go in the backlog and pick the games. Now we get into the cons, and the first con is that people know what to expect. Yes, I listed it as both a pro and a con, and that's because when people know what to expect, they kind of aren't really taken off guard, and they're kind of like, oh, it's gonna be the same thing, which it normally is like it's gonna be the exact same thing as last year, and thus, as we move into con number 2, people may become sick of the game. And a lot of people may become sick of the very familiar same old, which it's just what a lot of people felt with like the WWE games before they really overhauled them with 2K22. Who is people kind of got sick of the familiar. They're like, oh, it's not really anything new. All they did was add some new superstars or add some new graphics every few games or so. They add some new graphics. It's like when they went to next gen and with 2K15, and people may become sick of it. They might be like, oh, this game again, and the exact same game again. They might be disgruntled with it. The next, and this is and I feel like all three of these are kind of tied together, and that is a lack of creativity. Not a whole lot of innovation, and when it comes to the game, they may add one or two new things, but otherwise not a whole lot new going on because they essentially have to make the game for the next year. They gotta get it out in time for the next year, and sometimes, like W2K20, that will come back to haunt them. But the next thing is it's hard to keep up. So sometimes, and this is mostly in like. Hey, I noticed this a lot in the WWE games. By the time a WWE game comes out, a lot of stuff is outdated. Like, the attires are outdated. The teams are outdated. The preset teams that are in there are outdated. The theme songs are outdated. And I feel like sometimes WWE, people make the joke, sometimes WWE would do it on purpose. It's to screw over 2K, but yeah, sometimes things would be out of date. And so it would look really weird and really awkward by the time that came out. Also, sometimes it can be a bit difficult to come out, but that's the always they can get away with before, or the latest they can get away with before things completely shift, and sometimes a lot of stuff completely shifts. And then finally is that other game servers will eventually be shut down for the new game. So once the new games come out, some of the servers for the old games have to be shut down. Once 2K22 came out, they eventually shut down the servers for our beloved WWE 2K19, aka the GOAT that carried the WWE games for about 3 or so years. But yeah, so they had to shut down the servers, and a lot of people do like going back into the old games and playing them online or doing other stuff, of downloading stuff for them, and the fact that they can't anymore does kind of suck. But now we move into the non-annual games and the pros and cons for them. So for the non-annual games, the pros for number 1 is there's more room for creativity when you don't have to meet the demand for the next year, or where you don't have to release the game by the next year, or it allows them to be more innovative. It allows them to create more or for that specific game, because it may be a little bit of a long time. It may be a little while before the next game, so they have some time to kill. They have the time to be able to really pour into that game. They don't always do that, even with non-annual games, but they have the room and the ability to be able to do so. Then the next pro, number 2, which kind of ties into it, is more time can go into the game. So, like I said, they're not meeting the demand for this game has to come out year after year, or they can really take their time and really tool with it and work with it in order to make the game. And then the next, which kind of ties into the first two, is that each game could feel different from its predecessors. Again, this doesn't always happen, even with non-annual games, but the game is because there's not the demand for this to look exactly the same, or there's not the demand for this to come out the year after the first. The game doesn't have to look exactly the same. It can look different. It can play different, and like a lot of different stuff could be added to the game, and be able to be really worked on in the game to make it really stand out and be unique. And that's what a lot of people love about non-annual games, and what a lot of people don't really like about annual games. Again, not really picking sides here. I'm allowing you to make your own sides, but to pick your own sides. But yeah, so with each game feeling different from its predecessors and feeling like completely different, and a lot of people can latch onto that game, or they could say, you know what, I kind of prefer the other game more, or which we'll kind of get to. Then the next is people may not know what to expect. The first game may have came out a little while ago, but then with this next game on the horizon, people may be like, oh, I wonder what's going to be in this game. And they've been working at it for a few years or so now. Trying to add stuff to it. I wonder what's going to be in this game. So people who are buzzing, they're speculating, and especially now in the age of like the internet, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of videos, a lot of prediction videos. Like, oh man, what kind of stuff is going to be in this game? And I wonder what they're going to do. Will they add like this, and this? What are they going to do with the game? And then finally, and I kind of alluded to this throughout, is that games can be worked on without a time limit. You don't have to wait until the next year to be able to release the game. You can work on it as much as you need to. You give it as much time as you need to. You leave it in for a little bit in order for the game to really pan out and to really work out and to be able to really be fun and awesome and engaging to play. And we've seen that at a lot of times with non-annual games like the Mario games or like the Legend of Zelda game, stuff like that. But now we move into the cons, and I kind of allude to this. Sometimes it's a long way between games. Games can be 2, 3, 4, 5 years in between each other, or there's even some games that are like decades between each other, and so sometimes it can be a long wait, and people who may be wondering what happened to the franchise. And then some games, because they were in development for so long, end up in development hell, where they're there for a while, not really being worked on, and may even eventually be fully dropped altogether. And people who may be waiting on the game may have to wait a while for that game. The next thing is that more work may need to be put into the game. In fact, more work usually has to be put into the game, because this isn't a game where you can reuse stuff, but it's a game that may have been worked on for a while. People may be expecting a lot more from the game, and like, oh man, this game's taking a while. Oh, it should have like a lot going for her, and a lot of time and care put into it. And sometimes non-annual games don't get that, which is unfortunate. But oftentimes they do. But there are a lot of games that, even with them being non-annual, didn't get the time. Excuse me, the time and care put into the game. Which is unfortunate that it suffers because of it. If you get what I'm trying to say. Then the next thing is that number 3 is that people may not like the new aspects of the game. And I kind of alluded to this a little bit ago, that there may be some aspects from the one game versus the new game where you may be like, oh, that is really cool, or that's really nice that they changed that. But then there may be other things where you're like, man, I hate that they changed that, or they should go back to this one. And the new mechanics that they put into the game and removed from the game, stuff like that, need to be didn't really need to be there. And truth be told, that's really all games, but I feel like non-annual games kind of get scrutinized for that a tad bit more, because there's a bit more of an expectation from them than the next. And this, again, this one also kind of applies to all games, is that delays may halt game progress. And admittedly, this could hurt more for like an annual game, because now they're in a rush. But sometimes games can be delayed because they have to be worked on more. And although people usually understand and don't want to rush game, we've had rush games before and they didn't really work out. It may disappoint some people who were looking forward to the game coming out and be like, oh man, and now the game's gonna be stuck there for a while, and that sucks. So, oh, so with non-annual games, there's no telling how long this delay may be. It could be a month or two, it could be a year or two. Unfortunately, remember I was talking about development hell, how some games have been in development hell for a while. Well, there's some games still there to this day where they're not really being worked on and delayed for ages. And then finally, people may wish to stick to the familiar, or when people will get the annual games, yeah, they know what to expect, but they know what to expect. And choosing this non-annual game coming out years afterwards that may have new stuff that may be fun. It may be a gamble for some people. Well, and admittedly, obviously not everybody's like this, but there are some people who are like I don't know, I might just stick to the annual stuff. At least I know what I'm getting. And again, this is very rare, but I'm sure there's people like that where it's like I don't know. I might stick with the familiar, or I might stick with what I know is gonna happen. And I like these games, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that. And you are obviously able to choose which games you like and dislike. There's a lot of games. There's a plethora of games out there, but a lot of people may say, "Hey, I don't know if I want to take the gamble with this new game, and with this game coming out a long time after this one with all these new mechanics that may be fun, may not be fun." But nevertheless, I think that's going to do it for this video. So let me know in the comments below which side you guys are on, annual versus non-annual games. Like I said, I'm kind of in the middle. What like aspects of both of either or, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you can see as soon as it drops, and I will see you guys later. Peace.